What's happening, guys? We've got Sunday video scan coming at you for December 7th. We've finally got some snow here in New England. Just a little bit. We didn't get as much as we were expected to, but it was more of rain, freeze, then snow, which is always the worst unless you keep up with it. So if you didn't keep up with it, then you're having a hell of a time this morning trying to get it off your driveway. So anyway, first and foremost, 1,000 likes. We'll do that broadcast that I talked about last video. We only got halfway there. So if you're watching it right now, give YouTube a thumbs up. It helps us, it helps me, it helps you. We're going to be doing more and more of these videos. But what I want to do is share with you exactly how we prepare every single day in the Investors Underground chat room. So basically, every morning I take, what I'm watching on scan and then start to minimize it into those 2 to 3, maybe top 4 main watches, right? You can't trade 20 names. So that's what I do every morning, 8:50 to about 9:02, 9:03 a.m. And then I get ready for the day. So I typically trade what I'm prepared to do so. So that way, once the market opens, you have a general concept of, what I'm looking at, what I'm prepared for. And if you're able to see that trade unfolding, then you're ready to go, right? So there's so many services out there that, it's just a buy now, follow the leader kind of sheep style. And our goal at Investors Underground is to actually create traders, not to create sheep, right? So that's the concept. The concept is, if it does this, this is what I'd be looking to do. And then when it unfolds, you're either prepared or you're not. And if you don't know to take that trade at that time, then that's fine. That means you weren't either prepared or you weren't familiar with the setup, and you shouldn't be in the trade. And the disconnection that is out there is that, if you just did a blind follow the leader style trade, you're in the trade, but you have no idea why, right? So that is exactly what we do on the 8:50 a.m. Broadcast. Get you dialed into exactly, at least what I'm looking at for my style, my A+ setups, and, what I think, will be the best trade for me. And like I always talk about every single week, that may not be the best trade for you. We all are our own trader, and we all have to identify what we're good at. Some people may be good at parabolic moves. Some people may not. Some people may be good at longs. Some people may not. Some people may be good at shorts. Some people may not. So understand that. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner that you fine tune and go and focus on what you're the best at, the better you're going to be trading. And you've had a lot of time over this crazy market to kind of identify where you're making the most of your money and where you're losing most of your money. And you could do something as simple as just cutting that out, right? On all these low float type trades, EVC, for example, this week, no, EVK, I just don't even care about it because I know that I could have the best trade going and all of a sudden it swipes up, and it did, $2, $2.50, and guess what? All that hard work, all that focus, everything you did all day, gone in 2 candles. So I always try to focus on highly liquid names and, things that I can get in and out of without worrying about liquidity. And if you're trading a low float stock, that's great. And, I do all the time. But, one big change that I've made is just the amount of size that I'm willing to potentially take on trades like that, because much like a short squeeze, you might get caught in an offering. Some of these always have that offering risk that you should be, aware of. And if you get caught on the wrong side, it's one candidate, you're screwed. So keep that in mind. And that's a change that I have made. Instead of maybe trading 50 or 100,000 shares of something, I might only trade 5,000, 10, or 20,000. Something that's more in my comfort zone, where I know that that low float will require a whole bunch of attention. And if my attention is focused on this, which is not going to pay out that huge, it'll be a great trade, no doubt, but it's going to pull my attention away from this big pitcher move that I could size in, like the cruises on Friday right off the open, prepared for that, gap up, unwind. There's no concern for liquidity on those. You could size in whatever you're comfortable with. And if I'm focused on that low float of the day and I get on the wrong side of it, then all of a sudden my headspace is going to be, zoned into the wrong name. So just keep that in mind. But again, 1,000 likes and we'll do a broadcast this week. We've got it all set up. I had Max figure it out to be able to dual broadcast so that you guys can get a taste of exactly what we do. Another wild week, as you guys know. It's silly out there. It's a lot of people are comparing it to 99, 2000. And you know what? A lot of people made a lot of money in 99, 2000. And then they gave it all back. Because why? Because they made a ton of money doing a bunch of dumb things, which is fine. There's a lot of dumb money getting rich right now. But do that. Be that dumb money, because that's what's making a lot of money. I'm getting long all kinds of things. And, some of the things, it's just a momentum trade. It's just a nice chart setup. It's not smart decision making based on fundamental analysis and this and that. It's not. It's based on where the momentum is, what's hot in this market, right? But the difference between the people that kept their money after 99, 2000 and the people that didn't is process. So while you're making all of this money, make sure that you have an underlying foundation. Make sure you continually venture out and kind of better yourself as far as, what is making me the money here? What is the setup? What is working? And, find out what you're best at, and just know when that stops working that you need to, put the brakes on, right? So anyway, that's it. I mean, SPACs is they're insane. I mean, this is like OTCs back in the day, only, instead of stocks going 25 cents, 50 cents to $5, they're going, 10 to 20 to 30 in a couple days. They're not easy. Obviously, if you just bought and you closed your account and you checked it in a couple weeks, sure. But, even QS, which was GMHI, it goes up to 18, 19, back down to 13, 14, back up to 30. You got to hold through a lot. So more power to anybody that can, just hold that size and remain firm. I mean, right now it's about the story. It's about, what people are interested in and who the players are behind them. And people are extremely speculative right now. So price doesn't really matter for them. They just want a piece of, the hot market, the hot name, the hot opportunity. And just because it was 13 or 14 yesterday and it's 22 today or it's 30, they don't care, because it's probably going to go to 50. And if it doesn't, they're not really pulling back that much. I mean, obviously some are, but for the most part, you spread it across a bunch. I mean, I've spread across, 30 some odd names, probably 10 or 12 different SPACs. And I mean, the IRA is booming, and I will run with that as long as it's going. But I'll be alert. I'll have my antenna up. And when things start to take a break, when the market starts to turn, if it does, I'll be ready and I'll be aware. But until then, you got to ride. You got to ride with what's going on. So, like I've been talking about the last couple months, or at least the last couple weeks very aggressively, is, don't be afraid to get long. Don't be afraid to get long on these charts. It took me a lot of, it took me a lot to just go ahead and trust the trend. But nothing matters. And like we talked about last week, a lot of these stocks that double actually double again. Everybody wants to catch the one that doubles, but you might be waiting for a long time. And in this market, it's best to focus on the ones that double. They start to set up for the next trade, the next breakout, and trust that breakout. And that's what's been working. NTZ I've been talking about for quite some time. It had a great move. I had traded the first move, fumbled it. I was in, out, and didn't really hold. And then it started to consolidate. I got long 680s, 720s, 750s, And it's 14, I think it was 14.20 after hours or something like that so far. So I sold about half on Friday, but fantastic stock that doubled and then doubled again. So that's where my focus is. It's not about finding this stock that's going down, 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 and yeah, maybe it could double off the lows. Maybe. No. Right now, rip, consolidate, start to set up, next double. So FUBO, I mean, there's just so many names. Obviously, you had some of the pot names and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, you got to roll with what they're doing and adapt. And you guys know me. I'm not necessarily a perma short. I would never call myself that, considering half of what I do is long side. But my size on the short side is much bigger than my size on the long side. But I am adapting. You saw BB. BB was a fantastic trade. I'm going to go over BB, HGSH, and PPSI right before the scan portion once I start recording my screen. But great long side on BB. Basically following the trend, gap up, fail, gap up, fail, gap up, fail. Training everybody to short the pops, working out the sellers. And the prior Sunday scan, we talked about that the fades are not necessarily bearish, right? Before they go to the next level, they've got to work out sellers, right? So if a stock all of a sudden goes up 50%, well, it needs to consolidate for a few days. And the more that it suggests or rewards shorts for shorting the pops, right? But overall, it holds a trend, the more shorts are going to get comfortable. And then when it breaks that prior resistance, guess what? Straight up. And that's exactly what happened on BB. It was a fantastic trade. Very well prepared in the room. And then HGSH and PPSI I'll go over. You guys saw it on Twitter. Warned right at the high on PPSI. Everybody was getting all bulled up. But you have to understand kind of the mechanics of this move in the why, and was there any news, and is it the weekend coming up, and are they likely to walk? And when you start to trust these breakout moves on stocks like that, you're gonna get run over. And that's exactly what I warned about right at the highs on PPSI. I said everybody avoid it 100% if you're new. And then we had a nice short opportunity later on. And then HGSH, always look left. It was running. But like I said in the room, I would expect, doesn't mean that it's going to fail on the front side, but I would expect that it's going to have trouble with 450s at some point today. And at which point, then I'm really interested. So you'll see exactly what I did with that as well. So anyway. Last but not least, I wanted to talk about actually two things. So gap up, gap down. Right now I'm long swinging a lot of stuff in the IRA, breakouts, things like that. But, NEO, Tesla, Corsair, CRSR, there was a lot of good trades. I had Tesla on Tuesday night, I think, and I got, 30, 35 points to the downside. And then I tried it again Wednesday, Goldman, upgraded it, so I was down, I think, 14 points or so, 14, 17 points. And, that's fine. But if you're going to hold overnight, just like I said in the room, I'm only holding small overnight, right? And it's difficult because, you want to be patient with NEO, for example. NEO, I had, $2 to the downside, gap down. It was fantastic. And if you're not locking in, it just right back up, red to green. And, you just have to be cautious trying to force a trade when it's not there, right? So like Tesla, it worked the night before, made, the 30, 35 bucks, whatever. It was good. I started to get really bearish in the potential that maybe this whole thing unwinds before it goes in the S&P. Nah, it's just going to get bought up, I started to get bearish. So I kept on, small, just in case it gapped down again. And so that next morning, I was faced with, an opportunity. It gapped up nicely. Do I size in and get that flush? And I did. And so we got about $3 to $5 pullback, and it didn't look like it was going to fade anymore. So I moved on. You know, you can't force a trade that's not suggesting it's going to work. In this market, you got to move on. You got to move on to what's working. And so fortunately, we had NEO that day, which was amazing, as well as, you know, every other SPAC that just went straight up. So last but not least, the point that I was going to make before this one was had a conversation with a friend. Hottest year ever. First year full-time, like full-time. You know, he's been trading for a couple years. But you know, everybody around you is killing it. And you don't feel like you are. And so you start to make decisions. You start to make different choices. And you start to get away from what created your best year ever. Right? And so it's very easy to do that, and then you start to go backwards a little bit, right? And then you start looking at your account numbers. Everybody does it. And whether you'd want to admit it or not, you know, you're the guy that goes from 50 to 70 to 80 to 95,000 to 102,000. You broke over 100. You're pumped. And then you have that 5K loss and, you know, so on and so forth. So you go 95, 92, 88. And in your head, you're like, oh, I just need to get back over 100. And so you're up. You're actually up nicely on the day, but it's not over 100. So you're going to stay. You're going to stay. You want to wait for, you know, this name that you're right on to fix everything, instead of trading the plan where you expected it to go to right where it is right now. But instead of taking it off, you decided, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait because maybe this takes me back over 100 in my account. Well, guess what? Goes right back down and you're right back to square one. Now, you don't have a gain on the trade. Now, you're faced with, do I take it off for flat? Do I wait? You wait because you were just up a bunch. So you're like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to let this thing pan out. Let's see what happens. And then you turn it into a loser. And it's a constant repeat. Next. And all of a sudden you look back and you've just given back your entire month, right? So, you know, what do? You know, you don't start saying, oh, this no longer works anymore. My process doesn't work anymore. No, you have to adapt. You have to find out what you're doing wrong. So in this particular case, shorting the front side of the move. We talk about this every single week. There is no point to jump in front of the front side in this market with any size. It's fine to dabble, just like I do. You know, if my end game is going to be 20, 50, or 100,000 shares, I might be on that front side with 2, 3, 5, or 10,000 shares. I might be, but that's not size. That's not, you know, anything that I'm worried about. It's just to get in there, to get in the mental, you know, the mindset to focus on that particular name. However, if you're new and you're taking a half a size or full size on the front side, you're going to get chopped up. The second thing is, in this market, even PPSI, HDSH, if you trade that front side, great. Make sure you're covering. Make sure you cover into the front side of the move. Front side shorts equals front side covers. Because if you don't, and you expect that it should unwind, you anticipate that it's going to unwind, in this market, if you've got 100, 200 million shares, you're going to be let down more often than not. So make sure that when you take a trade, make sure that if you're on the front side, you're also locking in. There is no anticipating the backside in this market. There's no reason to. And so what worked 6 months ago, where normally you could short that level and then it starts to fade and it gets heavy at VWAP and then it continues to fade, right now it does exactly that, but instead of continuing to fade, it actually traps at VWAP and then right back up. So keep that in mind. And you don't need to change and say, okay, this doesn't work anymore. I'm going to start shooting here and shooting there and try to figure out something that'll work for me. It's not how it works. Stick to the process that got you there. Look at the last 8, 9, 10, 12 months, whatever it is that, you know, you've been running hot, and keep doing it. There's nothing that you can do about a loss except learn from it, right? So the longer you dwell about, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda, the longer you dwell that, oh, I'm at 75K now, I should be at 100K, the longer you dwell, the longer you're going to stay there, right? The mindset that happens when you start to go backwards is this meant for me? Can I even do this? Where's the bottom? Will I ever bounce? And all those things start to come in your head, and it's terrible, right? So what you guys need to do is just start tomorrow. Prove to yourself that you can do just your process, just your best setups tomorrow. And then prove to yourself you can do it for 2 weeks. Then prove to yourself you can do it for another 2 weeks. If you get to Wednesday and you've already traded a bunch of random stuff like AMD and Roku and, you know, SPY or whatever, then you've already broken, you can't do it. So prove to yourself, start Monday, prove to yourself for 2 weeks that you can stick to a plan. And if you can do that, do it for another 2 weeks. And then you start to build the habit that you had. But you have to start somewhere. So make sure, you know, think about that. But again, there's nothing you can do. What you have in your account is what you have in your account. The only thing you can do is build off that level. And the only way to build off that level is by sticking to the same process that built you up in the first place. And if you don't have that process, go to paper and figure out what you're good at. And then use that in your own account with real money. So that is the start for this week. Like I said, I'm going to do HDSH. I'm going to talk a little bit about that right before I get into scan. Because usually I break this into 2 segments. I do the first part and then I do the screen record. Also, Julian Regal. I love how you reinforce the knowledge I've gotten from you every day. Love the line, dip buyers become pop sellers, right? That's what I said last Sunday. So if you think about that in terms of HDSH, in terms of PPSI, in terms of any momentum trade, ask yourself, are they still buying dips? If so, stay away. Wait for them to be selling pops. And at that point, that's where you want to start to get in. You want to compete on those offers with sellers, right? If things are going straight up, there is no reason to sell. Nobody's even going to be thinking about selling. As soon as it starts to turn, they're still buying dips. And that's why you're getting chopped up. It goes back up. But then when it dips, and dips again, and it pops back up, and it fails, dips again, and it fails, guess what? All those dip buyers are now like, uh-oh. They're going to be looking for their exits. That's where you want to be if you're a short seller. You want to be when everybody else is starting to look for their exits. There's going to be competition on the offer. They're going to be driving the offers down. And then you're going to be on the right side of the trade. All right. We'll get right back into this for the Sunday scan portion. All right. So I don't remember if I said that, but Julian, you got the free t-shirt. I think I started to say it, but then I went off on a tangent. So Julian, you got the free t-shirt this week. So just email me, webmaster@investorsunderground.com, and we'll ship it out to you. Also, make sure if you guys do the like right now, take a minute, press pause, click the like button. That helps us, and it's going to help you because I'm going to be putting out more content. Okay? So if you guys do the like button and we get to 1,000, I'm going to do a broadcast this week and stream it live from IU so you can kind of see what we do each and every day. Also, we have a webinar this week. I haven't figured out the day. I will by tomorrow, and I will let everybody know. Yes, it will be recorded as always. So real quick, before we get into what I'm watching for next week, what I wanted to just kind of show you, and I'll also show you the charts of the trades that I made. You know, sticking with the theme of always looking left, right? What you want to do is you always want to look at where it had trouble the last couple times, right? So if you go back all the way over to here, 450s level, right? 430s, 440s or so. And even down here, 380s, it had some trouble. So if you go back and look at the recent highs, you can see the highest volume day was right over here. So 13 million. So that becomes the day that we care about. We had a high volume day, right? 13 million, and then I think another 10 million. Yeah. So right away, I want to assume, and you know, technically it's 440, right? But I want to assume, or I'm just going to use 450 for simplicity, and that's exactly what I said in the room. I want to assume that it's going to have trouble with that level. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't get, right back through those levels and then, keep on going. That does happen. But once it starts to fail, once it starts to get heavy, you can make a safe assumption versus the prior highs, versus prior resistance point, that there's a good chance it's going to get heavy. So that's exactly what I did. And again, I'll post my charts up here as well. But you can also see, looking left, you can see that, we had some trouble right over here. We had a little bit of a topping action at 480, 490. So, for most traders, in my opinion, it's a great level to leave it alone until it starts to peak out. For me, I put on a small dabble early, but I had no size, and you'll see that, until we exhausted out. So, we've got this chop shop, wraps up, it looks like it's going to go nuts, comes back, fails again, good volume bar, and then we've got these couple basically tries at 510 to 515 range, and it fails. Ramps up, fails, ramps up, fails, ramps up, fails, and then it starts to crack. So you'll see that I actually put on the position at that point, anticipating that it was going to continue to break down. Now, that doesn't mean that I sized up full size, right? Because we're not in an anticipation market. So it's okay to start in, and if it had started to base at this prior level, I would need to adjust size, re-examine, whether or not, this was a good idea or not. And if it stays heavy, continue to size in accordingly. So I ended up covering it a little too early, and by a little I mean probably about a buck too early. But I just wanted to show that one, as well as PPSI, which, I've been on the other side of this trade so often. So I was able to see it. Tape does tell a story. Everybody asks, how do you read tape? It's screen time. Screen time. Record it. And during the day in the Traders Lounge, we go over this stuff. So the answer is record your screen and then check it with the commentary that I put out. Check it real time with what I'm saying. And you guys saw it if you follow me on Twitter. You saw that I warned the room and I said, everybody was starting to talk about the breakout here. Nice setup. Looks like it's about to, squeeze all the shorts. And I just said, stay away. Stay away. In my opinion, they're creating their exit, right? There's no reason for it to be up. It's a low float stock, hasn't really squeezed, and, it's the weekend. They need to run these up higher and higher and higher to create the liquidity they need to get back out, right? So sometimes, even if there's no shorts, they'll still just run it up another couple bucks because they know they can sell it all the way back down, right? So anytime they get stuck in a particular name like EVK, they might just rip it up higher, even if there's no shorts, because it's worth the risk for them to break it out another couple bucks, because there's just so many traders in this market right now that are going to think that it's going to go to 10 or 15 or whatever. And so now it's cheaper for them to swipe it up and then sell it off for the rest of the couple hours than just not swipe it up and get stuck with a big bag. So that's what you see a lot of times. You see this huge volume candle right here, biggest volume of the day, 1.5 million shares. So a huge exit there. That never means it's over, okay? That big volume candle, that is a tell. That is a, okay, now we take note. And yes, sometimes maybe I'd start into his position at that point. But for me, I wasn't looking for a headache. Anybody could have waited for VWAP to fail and have failed follow through. I didn't really get involved until a little bit over here. I traded this move, but once again, what I was talking about with this day and age, where normally you might have a VWAP test and then start to fail. No, not happening. So this is trapping under VWAP. But there's just not really any squeeze. There's not really any point where the shorts really got to run for their money. So in my opinion, longs got stuck. They tried to plant their exit. They probably did an okay job, but at that point they just walked, right? So again, this is all my opinion, my assumption. We've seen it a million times. It's not rocket science, but At the same time, there's risk involved when you start to take a contrary position to what's happening. But this is a great example of, old me maybe would trade a whole bunch of shares, and then you're all happy, everything's working, you're up $1.50 per share. All of a sudden, 2 candles, you're red. And same thing that I warned about on LIZI. I told the room, it looks like it's going to squeeze out, but I don't trust it. I'll trade this breakout. That's fine. But I don't trust it. I don't trust it with any size, because at any point they might flush this thing out, and we got that exact washout. So you can start to tell these things over time, but the easy answer to how do you read tape, how do you do all this stuff, is watch the commentary and record your screen. There's plenty of free screen recorders out there. I'm using one right now. I use one every single day. I tell all the guys in my room to record while the commentary is going on. Watch it back over and over and over again. That's how you learn. Not by somebody telling you what to look for. Not after the fact. Oh, this bid did this and that did that. No, it's about you kind of getting a feel for the level 2, time and sales, chart, the setup, and all of that. All right, let's fly through this so this thing's not a 3-hour video. STPK, pretty much straight up. Another SPAC that's hot. This is going to be probably a main watch for me. I currently have a small long. I got it midday. Nothing aggressive. Again, just kind of spreading the wealth amongst 30, 35 plus different names, which I did size down. But nice opportunity. I did short it into this parabolic move, just small, just to kind of get my feet wet. But I think we'll have a nice opportunity. Hopefully, we gap up over 1750s. We have some type of parabolic. Will we? I don't know. It's down a little bit after hours. You can see that we're in a little bit of a channel so far. So I think that these are going to be the key levels so far. And under 1630s, if they stay heavy, I would consider fading it. And if we were setting up around 1720s for that 1750 breakout, I would consider going long. But other than that, I probably would just wait for some type of reactive trade and hopefully have some type of, slowly speed up, fast, and break out to give that opportunity. So should be a good one. PACB, I am watching this one because it is overextended. However, we've got the wicks that we talk about. We've got a nice pullback over here. We've got a wicks, the pullback comes back, pullback comes back, and then again. So those wicks, as we talk about every Sunday, are good for longevity. So I don't want to step in front of it, but what I am watching for is, potentially gets up, a couple more bucks. So right now it is 20 bucks or so. So ideally 22, 23, 25, some type of blow off move. But I'd be watching it for something like plug or BLDP. They lasted a lot longer than you would have thought. But once they turned, they offered a fantastic $1, $2 pullback day. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to get prepared for. JWN, same thing. I don't want to step in front of it. Again, the wicks we talk about on the daily, higher the better. We're starting to get into some crazy levels. KSS, same thing. I guess Macy's too. So all of retail, I always just kind of scale through and see what else is going for retail. Anytime that I start, talking retail, I look. But you can see getting into some pre-pandemic levels as well as JWN that I just said. Same thing, and then Macy's, still kind of making its way back up. But I would watch Macy's along with, JWN, KSS, kind of get a feel for what they're all doing. If they're all just kind of grinding and trending, then they're probably not going to do anything. If Macy's decides to take a big, 10% haircut day, then I'd be looking to, fade something like JWN off that move. Laser has been fantastic. This is another one of those crazy SPAC type trades where this was GMHI that I was talking about, and kudos to anybody that can hold through this complete unwind and then all of a sudden comes right back. CNBC, Kramer's been on it, as well as I forget the other guy, but he came out the next night. So they both pushed it, $3-4 after hours, and shorts are just bent. So the thing about this is, I'm not ruling anything out. QS, we had that huge move, but it was like the first of its kind. Maybe shorts weren't super screwed. They got screwed and they probably covered. But I feel like, laser and laser volume, I mean, this could actually just be the first of many of the days where we might start to set up again before we go, something silly. So don't rule out 40 to 50 or higher, circuit halts, all that kind of crazy stuff, because the volume is massive. We've got a great opportunity here. So I will be trading the big parabolic moves on the short side probably, but be cautious thinking that it's ran too far, especially in this market, until you start to see 9:45, 10 a.m. every day start to get heavy. Then I might be interested in the potential fade. But I would be super, super cautious, fighting trend, especially because really they're just one swipe away from, really running you over. So keep that in mind. OBLN, this one is crazy after hours, no real reason to run. What else is new? I actually had been swinging this for quite some time, and I'd been accumulating just because it fit the same kind of ticket for some of these other names that have been running, and it ramped up this day, and I had sold it basically 150s or so. So unfortunately, I don't have it. I was hoping that I would in the laundry list of swings, but I didn't have any. So there is a good chance that it might just gap and fade, but if they start to trap and trap and trap, be aware that it could continue to go. So we should have a trade there. I would expect 10 million shares by open. I traded quite a few on Friday after hours, which is kind of how they do it. They create the trap, they set the trap. No reason to go. People start to fade it. They let them win. They bring it back up. They let them win, just like BB, which I said I was going to talk about. But same thing with that, where fades, gaps up, fades, gaps up, fades, and then bam, we got the day on Friday, which you guys saw, the long entry there, and then the scale into the winner. So other than that, failed follow through is the next segment. If you guys click through on the description, you'll see you can go to the website, and I always write out pretty much what I am saying on here as well. But HESH, higher the better. Unfortunately, it's probably going to gap down. I still think we could have some room back down to the 170s or 170, 180s eventually. But it kind of unwound a lot after hours, unfortunately. So it would have been nice to have a good push, 250, 280, something like that, verse 3. I think the trade's probably spoiled, and congrats to anybody with patience. That one I had a decent chunk on, and still, I covered too early, even with such a great average. But we'll see what happens. I do have interest in it if it pops up and starts to fail to follow through. PLTR, higher the better. I'm just kind of thinking about, like a Neo style where they're going to gap up to sell it off a few days. And I would continue to trade that, potentially come back, retest towards the 21 level, 22, 21 level. And then I would probably just, forget about it for a little while and just let it do its thing. Crazy squeeze, crazy opportunity. It was nice to get a good piece of that. If you guys were in the room, you saw it. But we'll see what happens. FSLY, wild one. I think somebody was just probably bent on, and I'm assuming that it had weekly calls, but I'm assuming somebody sold too many of, some of the calls or something. They ended up just squeezing everybody out. And I didn't want to have a headache on Friday, so I looked at it and I took it back off radar. And I shouldn't have done that because, obviously it was a beautiful unwind. So I actually got there. I felt like it was trading pretty heavy. So I actually got there into the push versus the VWAP level, and just a great unwind there. And same thing, you can see it came back and retested. This is why you always want to look left. Came back and had trouble with those levels versus versus same risk, VWAP, and unwind. So great trade in the room. I think that this is staying super heavy. I would welcome any good push in the morning, potentially up to this level right over here, which is about 89.70. So let's call it 90. And then in a perfect world, 90.50s. You know, it goes retest right back up towards this level and then fail. I could see this going, you know, mid to low 80s based on how they kind of just squeezed everybody out and then just unwound. There's still a seller present, and I definitely could see this coming right back to daily chart support there in the mid to low 80s. Continuation plays, I've got a decent list here. COGT, I've been swinging. Again, you know, I'm looking for big volume days. Either good news that it has volume come in, breaks out, good chart setup after, you know, a huge volume candle, consolidate for a couple days, and then start to go. This being the potential entry day for, you know, smart money. And then they let it do its thing and then start to continue to add. It's been a great way to anticipate some of these breakouts. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that. But I would assume that it's going to have trouble with, you know, all of these levels right here, right at the 1450s. But I would love to continue to add if it starts to find a base at 1450s. But I don't want to be overloaded anticipating that, because then I'm going to start to act with emotion, and that's not what I want to do. NTZ, same deal. You guys know that have been in the room that I've been long. Back to back, you know, $2 and then consolidate and then another $2. You can't get better than that. So we'll see what happens. I'm still probably going to keep some on long term just because I have such a cheap average. But I'll probably trim a little bit more if it does anything else crazy. But very nice so far. IPV, great one in the room on Friday. I got long under 12. I added some midday. I added some more. But again, with these SPAC trades, you don't know if, you know, it's just going to go straight up or if it's going to do the straight up for a couple days, come back, consolidate for a month as they start to get closer to, you know, merger and voting and all that kind of stuff. So the story here is good. Players are good. Just like I talked about, you know, that's kind of what it's about right now. BB, I held some over, and you know, whether or not this gaps up, I don't know. I just want it to be, I'm letting the winner work, but I'd love to see it pull back towards 828, well, probably 825, 830, reconsolidate at 830, and then have a nice push red to green. I'd love to trade that. Nice volume day over here, 330 million shares, and then we had this nice follow-up squeeze. So it's possible a week open would be bought up and we could get, you know, back up towards the 9. The goal that I wrote on Scan the night before was basically a week open and then potential 850 to 9 push. So we're almost there, and so far so good, and hopefully many participated in that trade. Shippers got hot. I held ship. I did not get tops. I think I have some EDRY. Just small, just in case it went, but nothing that I'm excited about. But you know, I did take ship because the volume, nice little ABCD type setup, and I didn't really get any ads, so I've got a good average. But you know, I typically would size in a lot more, but you know, I never trust these things, so we'll see what happens with that. MOGO, been letting this one work. You know, dips have been getting soaked up. We talk about these wicks and see what happens there. DRTT, same deal. You guys saw the day that it hit Scan right over here. Ended up going straight up and definitely did not expect it. I had bought it earlier in the day and then it just took off into the close, so I sold it. And I sold at least most of it anyway. And then I started to kind of re-add dips. So I'm using, I think, 220. 220 as the guide for risk is what I had posted. And, you know, as long as 220 range holds. I don't want to, I'm going to write that on Scan, 220. I'm not looking to bag it if it starts to fail. BPT as well. Don't know if I got long. BP, no, I don't have any. But nice chart setup. And I'll be looking to get long versus 220 range. As long as the 220 level over and under. Never a hard stop for me. Because you never know. You might need it, might be one seller. Flush them out and then carry on. So anyway, that's what I'm prepared for this week. I've got a lot more stocks on scan. If you guys click over, you'll see them. SPACs of interest. I went through and I have some other positions. PIC and RMG. You guys that have been paying attention know that I scooped those at 10. And yes, I sold them way too early. But CGRO, it's all about entry. You're not going to miss these things if you just wait. I mean, maybe you do, but you don't need to be buying the breakout, right? And you don't need to have FOMO. And if you missed, you missed, okay? But I scooped, and I actually had fantastic entry right there into the flush. So basically, all these breakout buyers puking out, and as you saw, I posted the entry. We got long on the flush and held that over. So it had a nice bid up after hours. I mean, all of these things are just going crazy. It's a crazy time right now. It's a good time to be a trader. If you're having any trouble out there, please, and you're part of the room, reach out. Reach out. Use the Traders Lounge to your advantage. We've got people in there all day long shooting questions back and forth. I try to do the best that I can, but when I'm not, we've got Jeremy and Ryan as well as many other guys that are just killing it with help. And Kratos, if I said that right, he's like a human encyclopedia where if you don't understand something, he knows the exact minute, chapter, and everything where you can go back and review it to understand. So last but not least, staying familiar scan. If you click the link, you'll see it. That's where I set price alerts. And so a lot of times you see all these trades that you want to take, but obviously you can only do so much, right? So rather than try to do all these things, as we focus on 3, 4, maybe 5, but typically 3 to 4. 1 to 2 is the only the max size. The max that I size into is 2 at a time. I might trade a bunch more at once, but the staying familiar section, I look at the channel that the stocks are in, and I put alerts under and over. So that way, I look at something, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a great trade. As soon as that breaks out or that breaks down, I gotta remember that. That's what price alerts are for. And so we have it built in right into the chat room software. We have our own custom chat room that Max built from scratch. And so we can do anything we want. So we built a price alert system that literally wakes you up and throws you off your chair when the price alert hits to make sure that you see it. And that's been a game changer to not losing those layup trades that you're doing scans the night, after the day at night, and you're like, oh, I wanted that one. And that's what the price alerts are for. So anyway, we'll catch you guys in the room. Once again, if you give a like, if we get to 1,000, I'm going to do the broadcast. We've got a webinar this week. Great first week for all those people that took advantage. Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I'm glad you guys got to see, exactly what we're about. Amazing feedback. Cam said his email box was blowing up with happiness. So that's always good to hear. And that's it. So we'll see you guys in the room tomorrow.